This channel is supported by Truefire. Truefire is an online library
enough, you can get the Truefire All Access Pass for as cheap as they ever do it, the $99 thing. So just jump and do that if you're looking for the best price that you can get Truefire All Access for.
So I saw that this had come up. I caught a little bit of Rhett's live stream where he was actually kind of comparing the new Fender Ultra Luxe Vintage with a few other Strats, and the PRS Silver Sky was one of them. And apparently it's something that he had sort of argued with his co-host Zach about the Silver Sky being a Strat or not. And Zach apparently has an opinion on this. And someone was sort of saying in the comments, like, so Rhett started off saying it's just a Strat, and then sort of like 5 minutes later, he'd switched to this Fender Ultra Luxe Vintage and was kind of like saying it's totally different. And this kind of got me thinking about what a Strat is. And to me, a Strat is a shape more than it is a sound. We'll get into this video to why, and why I think actually my idea of a Strat and what a Strat is to me is probably closer to the Silver Sky than the Ultra Luxe Vintage. That's probably okay to say, right? The Strat comes out 54. At that time, it has a 7.25 inch radius. I think a fairly chunky neck. I think at that time it might have even been a V-neck. You know, things change throughout the years. Rosewood gets added at some point. When does Rosewood get added? 1959, Rosewood gets added to the Strats. 58, it was added to Jazzmasters, apparently. You know, and then by 1964, 65, I think that's where, you know, that era of the Strat kind of then ends. So between 59 and there's 5 years of like the golden era. Rosewood board Fender Strat it's not a lot of time, it's not a lot of Strats. Since then, what has happened to the Stratocaster is it's had like a turbulent time, right? And I think quite a lot of the Strats that are being made by Fender today are closer to a super Strat, really, than a vintage Strat. And I guess that's entirely the point of why you'd have something like a Fender Vintera and the American vintage line and the reissues, because the Strat, really, all it actually means is that it's in the shape, the iconic shape of a Strat. But what is, you know, on the guitar other than that can vary greatly. Like, does it mean it's a 3 pickup guitar? For some people, yes. Do they have to be single coils? Well, HSS Strats have been a thing for years. You know, the Super Strat, the idea, which is exactly, I guess, what the Ultralux Vintage is kind of getting towards. It's like a combination of factors. I think of like some of my favourite Strat players. Eric Johnson is one of them. So he has a signature Strat, and I think he's even talked about having his vintage Strats re-radiused. His signature Strat has a 12-inch radius. And so I think maybe the point is that there's a Strat for everyone. But if someone says to me, like, the PRS Silver Sky doesn't sound or feel like a Strat to play, to me it maybe just says that we have differing opinions about what a Strat should be. You know, Eric Clapton's idea of what a Strat might be, you know, Noise's pickups, Jeff Beck's as well, Roller Nuts, all of these kind of things that have been accepted and are part of like the Stratocaster's evolution. The Strat can be pretty much anything. What the Silver Sky is to me is like a pretty interesting blend. Like, the shape is not exactly the same. You know, the 6 tuners are not in line, the headstock's not right, but the essence of the guitar, like at its core, it is still to me a Strat. And, you know, 6-point trem, unless you get the SE, that's one of those things that, to me, like the American Professional, the Player, those have a 2-point trem. To me, that doesn't feel as Stratty as a 6-point trem. You know, slimmer necks as well on the American Professional and on the Fender Player that are a little bit kind of more of a slim feel. Again, to me, that doesn't feel as Stratty as having a slightly chunkier neck. Like the Fender Vintera 60s neck, to me, it's like that perfect sort of feeling where it's like, right, you've got a chunk of wood in between your hands. And also that vintage radius, I think for me, is quite an important part of the Strat feel. Now, a lot of people are going to kind of hate that. But to me, that really round feel is part of what makes a vintage guitar feel that way. In terms of tone and sound, so... Oh, that sounds in tune. Yeah, so I don't know, for me... To me, I think it's maybe a little bit more of a hi-fi sound than the Strat. The Strat is like a bit narrower, is what I feel like. But, you know, the PRS to me feels like a Stratocaster to play in my hands. You know, it feels like a really good Strat to play, like a great 7.25 inch radius where you can do all of the bending stuff. I just restroked yesterday. Not a great advert for PRS, that is it. It's not their fault that this. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of fixes and modernizes some things, like changing strings on it takes seconds, super easy, a 20-second fret, but at its core, it feels like a Strat to play, and I think sounds pretty Stratty too. It's just a different flavour of Strat, and there are so many different flavours of Strat out there. It's particularly used. You can get them for some really good prices at the moment if you're looking for a Strat type guitar that, and you don't mind it being associated to John Mayer. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is it a Strat or not?